2 billion people. The jolly-bearded fat man addressed a group of innocently smiling elves sitting around a table. That's how many people celebrate Christmas these days. Never in the whole of human history have so many people celebrated this holiday. Woohoo! The elves cheered. The jolly fat man simply removed his spectacles and rubbed his eyes in frustration. While I understand that elves have a certain happy predisposition to any sort of news, I assure you, this is actually quite bad. Our facilities haven't upgraded appreciably since the late 1500s. With a steady pace of technological development and exploding demographics, we just can't keep pace. The elves were silent for a moment, then in unison cheered. Woohoo! Santa shrugged. I know. Elves. Elves are cheerful. And that, gentlemen, is why I feel I have to look outside the organization for some assistance in modernizing our operation to keep pace with changing times. The elves stared innocently for a few moments, and then one had the inspiration to ask, "What do you mean, Santa?" Santa replied, "I'm bringing in consultants." The elves were silent for a moment, and then the cheer broke out. Woohoo! Yes, Santa muttered to himself. He looked to an elderly smiling elf at his side. Cheryl, I'm going to need an eggnog here. The dutiful elf hopped up to retrieve the beverage, while the rest stared on blankly with happy expressions on their faces. Cheryl handed Santa a mug of sweet, thick eggnog, which Santa took a deep drink of. Barney, one of the sharper of Santa's elves, upon some reflection saw fit to ask, "Santa, how does one get consultants to help with our magical little workshop in the North Pole?" Santa choked a bit on the last sip of his eggnog. Well, gentlemen, sometimes when you're in special circumstances, such as ours, you have to look to some unconventional sources for an outside perspective. Barney pressed the matter. What sort of outside perspectives? Just then, the doors to the boardroom flew open, and a group of green-skinned, pointy-eared men came in, most of them sporting mohawks, a few missing chunks of their ears, and even a few more had split lips revealing hideous, pointed teeth underneath. Pierced ears and leather abounded as the rowdy bunch hissed upon arrival. "Hello, boys!" "Goblins," Santa replied, lifting the mug once more to his lips. "I hired goblins, gentlemen." The goblins scrambled on over to the meeting table and spread out several animal skins, knocking over mugs, clipboards, and stacks of paper every which way. The skins had all manner of writing on them, clearly some layout of their plans for the workshop. Several of the elves seemed to turn green at the very sight of fresh animal skins. So much so that before the goblins could even get past the first sentence, Barney asked, "Where did you get those animal skins?" A goblin rather matter-of-factly explained, "We like to travel light and use what we can dig up at a location. A few redundant deer in your herd out there became venison and parchment." The elves shrieked, and Santa's face screwed up into a twisted look of shock and revulsion. Barney screamed, "The reindeer! The magical reindeer! You butchers! How will Santa's sleigh take flight?" "Sleigh? Magical reindeer?" the goblin scoffed. "This is the 21st century, elf on a shelf. You can bust that thing into firewood. We're setting Santa up with a goblin Harrier jet." The elves sat around mortified. Poor weeping Cheryl turned to Santa and implored him, Please send these foul creatures away before they do any more harm." Santa silenced her. "The ways of the goblins are different from ours, but we must approach this with an open mind."
"I like you, Santa. I like the way you think. Name's Barnabas. Now, I was wondering if we might begin discussing your assembly area."
Barney was quick to interject.
"Just see here, Barnabas. That workshop has been producing wooden rocking horses and toy trains for the children of this world for centuries."
Barnabas gave a deep guttural laugh at that.
Toy trains and horses? Are you shitting me? Kids these days don't play with that shit. You need to be able to make at least an Xbox One to keep this energy drink hopped up ADD adult generation engaged. Damn, Santa, you guys needed us badly.
Santa!
Barney implored. Barney, please, work with him on this. I wouldn't be doing this if times weren't desperate.
Barney, huh?
Barnabas mused.
Nice name. I can see us getting along. Now, what I'm proposing is scrapping the workshop and going with a fully automated factory setup. I'm talking machines, conveyors, the works.
So we'll be building toys using the machines instead of the wooden hammers? I think we can get behind that.
An excited elf said, much to the agreement of the other enthusiastic elves.
No,
Barnabas corrected.
I said fully automated. The work is going to be done by goblin drones. Some of my craftier engineers are cobbling them together right now.
The elves bore a look of consternation.
But what will become of us?
Damned if I know,
Barnabas shrugged.
Maybe there's another battle at Helm's Deep or something.
The elves shot forlorn glances at one another, while Barney, the only one worldly enough to take umbrage, grumbled out,
Santa? A word with you in private, if you please.
Santa met his trusted elf in a small room connected to their meeting area. Barney was fully red-faced with anger, and demanded of his longtime friend and compatriot,
Santa, you can't be serious about this. This is a magical place, a place of wonder and childhood joy. My God, Santa, he's wearing Rudolph's nose on his necklace.
Santa heard his trusted elf out, and after a moment explained to him, Do not blame the goblins, Barney. They are only the symptom. Last year the elves threw the last of the toys in my sack as I took off, and it was only by the skin of my teeth I got the last delivery done. The world has grown too large, too advanced, too avaricious for a magical workshop and toy trains to satisfy anymore. They've produced a throng of people the likes of which the world has never seen, and all of them wants the latest flashing light, and they want it on time or else. This is no longer a magical world, Barney. It's a world governed by the cold, unforgiving statistic. It's a world governed by the production rate, by the delivery schedule. A world where humanity itself is replaced by a robotic arm and an online order. It won't suffer our quaint humanity anymore, Barney.
And that's my next order of business, actually.
Barnabas stood at the door, observing all the social graces of a hyena.
Because we have to address another problem.
Barnabas poked at Santa's belly.
We have to do something about all this squishy flesh.
Santa's girth is a manifestation of his appreciation for all that is abundant and wonderful in this world,
Barney insisted.
Hey, I'm not here to judge.
Barnabas insisted.
I'm just saying that the rigors of the job going forward aren't going to be suitable for flesh itself. We need a bit more machine.
Barney adopted a sarcastic tone.
Let me guess, replace Santa with a goblin drone.
Barnabas laughed.
Hardly. I'm just proposing a bit of surgery to give Santa a few mechanical upgrades.
Barney asked with a growing sense of dread.
Surgery? Upgrades?
Oh yes. Excise a bit of flesh here, some body hair, make Santa here up to snuff for the new era.
Never,
Barney exclaimed. I'll do it, Santa interrupted. As I said, Barney, no more quaint humanity. Santa lay strapped to a workshop table. The goblins scurried to and fro, laying out all sorts of sharp instruments and mechanical-looking devices. Several elves sat in the room, Barney of course among them. Barnabas conferred with his associate goblins and then approached Santa.
So, we searched high and low here, and we can't find the anesthetic. Where do you keep it?
Santa furled his brow in confusion. Anesthetic? We don't keep anything like that here.
maybe you keep around some strong liquor. You're gonna need it.
No. This is a family-friendly place. The most we keep around is milk and eggnog.
Boy, you're not making this easy. Laszlo, help him out here.
A goblin with bloodshot eyes staggered over to an empty flower vase and proceeded to relieve himself in it till it was filled to the brim. Barnabas took the vase and said,
Here, drink this. It should do the trick.
Santa's face twisted in revulsion. That's disgusting. I'll never do that.
Oh, I can understand the reservations, but I assure you, Laszlo's urine is at least 120 proof. It should dull the pain effectively.
No, Santa stood firm. On this I draw the line.
Suit yourself. Anyways, what we first like to do here is lose your right eye. We want to replace it with this special multi-filter optic scope that can switch from visible light to night vision and infrared. It also comes with laser scope settings.
I don't see why I would need that. All I'm doing is delivering presents. Barnabas shrugged.
Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
And with that, Barnabas, in one fluid, swift motion, drove his fingers into Santa's right eye and tore it clear out of his head. Santa erupted into a scream that shook the foundations of the workshop itself, and in mere moments passed out from the shock. The elves in the room shrieked in terror and disgust. Barnabas instructed his helpers,
Clear out the remnants of that optic nerve so I can jam this in the socket.
Barney dashed over screaming,
That's enough. Leave it.
Barnabas was holding a dagger to his throat and said,
One more step and I'll cut your throat from ear to ear, Link.
The goblins set about their grisly task. Goblin fingers plucked strand of nerves out of the socket, tossing them this way and that. Barnabas picked up the optic mechanism and crammed it firmly in Santa's empty eye socket. Next he surveyed the jolly fat man's arms.
I think this could use some upgrade here.
What are you thinking, boss? Hand joints or total arm replacement?
Laszlo asked.
What is it we always say? Measure twice and cut once.
That doesn't sound like anything we say, boss.
Yeah, you're right. Let's cut the whole arm off.
Barnabas picked up a large meat cleaver and brought it down forcefully on Santa's left shoulder, removing the arm completely. Blood spewed out, totally drenching Cheryl's face, as she cried in agony,
No more! No more!
Goblin assistants tore out the remnants of the shoulder joint, and Barnabas crammed in another metal device where once an arm sat. Next he poked and prodded at the jolly fat man's corpulent belly.
Fat,
He poked again on the other side of his body.
fat,
He poked about, shouting,
fat, fat, fat. No good. Storage space.
The goblin whipped out his dagger and began hacking off Santa's belly in large watermelon wedge chunks, tossing them about. Fat and viscera flew about the room, peppering elf and goblin alike. The elves sat traumatized, grappling with the remnants of their sanity as they were coated in chunks of fat and skin. The goblins hauled out a metal shell painted red, but Barnabas stopped them momentarily.
Hey, Laszlo. While we're in there, let's get these intestines out.
Barney could hold his objections no longer.
Intestines? How will he digest milk and cookies?
Milk and cookies? Get that shit out of here. We're sticking a thorium reactor in there.
The goblins pulled intestines out, throwing them everywhere. The elves fainted with tears in their eyes and blood on their faces. Barney's nostrils were assailed by the pungent smell of ammonia. He roused from his unconscious state. He was face to face with Barnabas, who chided,
Wakey, wakey. I think 6 hours is enough of a nap.
Barney groaned.
Smelling salts?
Soiled underwear. You elves don't keep any proper medical supplies around.
Barney recoiled and burned into the goblin's eyes with malice. Barnabas laughed maniacally.
Besides, he's waking up. The crafts look like they took hold. I figured you of all folks up here would like to see the new Santa.
Barney looked to the table and saw Santa stir, and then sit up on the table. His face bore a stoic look, but was very much still the face of Santa he'd always seen. The post-operative sheet which had been covering him then fell away, revealing the cold, robotic arm the goblins had installed. He then turned his face to Barney. Covering half his face was the mount of the ocular implant. A burst of red laser light flashed, indicating that the unit was functional. This was now Santa. The magical little workshop, the innocence and humanity of the holiday, all of it was bled out that day. Now was a soulless, mechanical holiday run with the efficiency of the automatons. Christmas had received an upgrade.
It's in the dustiest books that you may find the best stories.